Look, I'm seeing a therapist. That doesn't make me sensitive, it's for men too. A TITSRUMP Co. Ltd. And associate letters to the editor. Editorial, as in the editor writes letters and you sit down and shut the hell up, might even learn a thing or two, stupid ass. When I said full enclosure, I started getting letters to the editor saying I might perhaps be sensitive, or receiving antidepressants from a psychiatrist. First of all, this is letters from the editor, not send your opinions to Ingoldt and waste his time while he is working. What I enclosed in the full enclosure was that I hate that fiend at the mall entrance by the Texas Roadhouse, the one who abuses those children from the food court, and that I go to the mall about twice a week but just not really on Thursdays. I enclosed that I made sexual union with a water elementary. I enclosed that I am kind of like a grandpa to my buddy's kids, and we meet up at Texas Roadhouse some Saturdays. By the way, surprising results there. The young man spent a bit of the money I gave him, but the young girl didn't. She's sharp as a tack. I may be her grandfather, you know. The boy bought a large chocolate milk at school as well as some runes and incense, and had just under $5 remaining, but his sister was a little sharper and held on to all of the money. Sure enough, she was able to buy the better video game in its entirety, though she apparently had to deposit the $20 into a Google coin to purchase the game, or something inside of a game. The boy, being just a bit short, was quite upset, but his mother agreed to compensate the $4.35 he had spent, in part because she hadn't thought about him being big enough to drink the large chocolate milk at school. Growing boys, but she's a good mom, just a little slow on the draw when it comes to boys. He had clearly attained the wisdom I was checking for in giving them half the cash value of the game they wanted, but had to make an expenditure or two, so I felt comfortable in purchasing the game for the child. So we had planned to stop, I mean me, my friend Jürgen, his daughter, and the grandkids at Texas Roadhouse as we often do. Kid wanted to play the game at the table, but Jürgen set the record straight before that could happen. The one I think may be my daughter lets them use the devices at the table, which I don't care for. So anyone, her idiot husband, the one with the multicolored hair who thinks he is Hispanic and works at the Texas Roadhouse, he was gonna be our waiter today. I'm not positive if he is my kid or if his wife is, but I would almost guarantee those grandkids have my blood, or if nothing else my friend Jürgen's. Not like his stupid ass knows any more clearly who was getting with who in the late 70s. My weird little son-in-law comes out, and I ask him where's my steak, before he even has the opportunity to do his little bit about what he can get me. He knows I want a steak. I order the same thing every time, as well as a take-home portion of the same to go for curbside delivery on the way out. He didn't find this funny and proceeded to call me an all-out sexual and a neurotypical hegemony. First of all, I never worked in hedge money. I find it to be unethical and best handled by the banking caste. You know the one. Chinese fellas, they're frugal but willing to work with an individual in need. I don't know what the fucking all-out sexual is. But I did say back to him, that's right buck, all male here. Now about that steak, he told me I needed therapy. I told him I've been seeing a therapist since they came out with therapy after the World Wars, both of which one avoided serving in, but I'm a journalist and one have half a brain. Military don't make sense for me, and I was a trained typist by that point. But I was in therapy, extensively. That don't mean my mommy hit me or an adult took illict or lewd licenses from me. I keep my emotions in check by talking about them with a neutral third party, and it's a good place to meet women too. As I mentioned, I hardly go to the Signature Lounge because of that dickhead who dresses like King Tut who pinched my dog, so I can't meet women at the Signature Lounge, and I am with people who may be my children and grandkids when I go to the Woodfield Mall. There's something about a woman who cares about her mental health enough to attend therapy that I find soothing, especially as I grow on in years. I became very upset by Christopher Columbus #1 fan and his little accusation that I abuse people on the basis of their mental health. Just because I run a newspaper, and my letters from the editor section is titled "Geez, some people are just so sensitive," I guess, he thinks I don't believe in mental illness, and I don't think everyone can benefit from therapy, let alone how critical it is for people with shit like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder is where you aren't sensitive but your nerves get fucked up by things like the weather, or your brain just attacks itself. It can resemble sensitivity, but it ain't the same thing, even if a lot of people in the mental health community are simultaneously extremely sensitive. I believe the subculture is what fosters this, and that's why I don't talk about my therapy. I also don't want the PC police to cancel me for going to therapy. At this point, Christopher Columbus had already slurred me for my Swiss heritage, and even though he is my son, I did not want to dog slap the bullshit out of him for acting brand new in front of my grandkids, his own damn kids. I'm not completely positive if he is my kid. I remember vaguely his mother, who passed many years ago, but it's critically important that I remember if it was Styx or the GDs on the radio when the child was conceived, because that hazy memory would indicate if I knocked these gals up in 1978 or early 1979. I don't think both he and his wife are my kids, but I also try not to think about that because it wouldn't be anyone's fault that the two ended up together, especially because the GD's concert was in St. Louis and you aren't supposed to just move around the country like a rambling man. I slapped the shit out of a Baptist pastor at that concert, and I do believe I laid with his wife later that evening. The other time it was just Mr. Roboto on the radio, and I remember because of a strong sensory memory induced by the drugs. Bear in mind this was more than 40 years ago, and I am, as of the time of publication, 107 years old and sometimes forget my beta blockers. The gal I was making sexual union with under the influence of the drugs dissolved into the continuum within 90 minutes of consummation, but that's the one I feel may have been an Undine. I did not slap my son or son-in-law in front of his own children, though I was tempted. And Jurgen may have actually struck him anyway. I got in my car and vacated the mall without even saying goodbye to my grandkids. I do plan to bring this up to my therapist next I see her, but in the meantime I'm writing a strongly worded letter to all my readers who called me sensitive and saying hurtful things to them. I need to get stamps, that's what I forgot at the mall. Damn it. Mr. IP Tuts, TITSRUMP Publishing Inc. Co. Ltd.